don't go anywhere. Today, we are crushing myths all around childbirth and pregnancy. My name's Tina. I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 10 years, and nothing drives me more crazy than misinformation around childbirth and pregnancy, because as if becoming a new parent is not stressful enough without myths floating around there to scare you. So today, we're knocking out 9 of them, and let's get started with myth number 1, epidurals run out. They don't, actually. Epidurals is actually a needle injected into the epidural space, and we put a little plastic tube called an epidural catheter. This tube allows us to give you continuous medication, and it's great because it's good for your labor, it's good for pushing, and it's good for after you push your baby out and deliver your placenta and the repair of any tears that happen down below during your childbirth. Sometimes it's reported that people's epidurals sort of stop working, but did they stop working? That's the big question. Sometimes, as your childbirth progresses, it can become very intense very quickly. A lot of times this happens around transition, and transition is happening around 7 to 8 centimeters as you become fully dilated and you go from contractions that bring baby down to contractions that expel your baby. So it's a very intense time in pregnancy, and sometimes if it happens quick enough for your body, your pain levels, they're increasing faster than the epidural can infuse the pain medication and take effect. Because remember, epidural medications takes about 15 to 20 minutes once it's circulating to give you that effect of pain control. So it's not that epidurals stop working, it's that epidurals can't keep up. They're good, but they're not that good. The other confusion about epidurals is that they will not work on pressure down below. They only work on pain because they don't actually innervate that nerve that's over the rectum. So if you're feeling pressure, that is normal and there's not much we can do about it. But sometimes that pressure can be mistaken for pain, and then you might think, my epidural has run out and is no longer working. Myth number 2, during my C-section, they took all of my organs out and they put them on the operating room table. That didn't happen. I can tell you for sure that didn't happen. But I have heard from patients or from partners of patients in the last C-section, they looked over the drape and they saw their organs out on the table. What you might have seen was their uterus out, because that is the one organ that a lot of providers will suture outside of the body. Not suture it outside of the body, but suture it while it's outside of the body. And you might have seen lots of blood and fluid from the delivery. I assure you, the uterus was the only one. Your bowels, your kidneys, your liver, all of that stayed in their body. We don't want anything to do with those organs. We want to know about your uterus. Myth number 3, you're going to instantaneously bond with your baby the moment they are placed in your arms. This doesn't actually happen for everybody, but that can be really unnerving if it doesn't, because the message of you're going to love this baby more than anything else in the whole world the minute you meet them, that's been hammered into our brains over time, over and over and over again. But I'm here to tell you that up to 20% of new parents report not feeling that instantaneous bond, and that happens for many different reasons. Maybe you had a C-section which wasn't on your birth plan. Maybe there was a delay in breastfeeding, or your baby went to the NICU, or you have other kids at home that are taking your time and attention. Lots of reasons why the bond might not happen. It's just going to take time, and you're not alone. But do try to carve out time to take care of yourself, because you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. Go for a walk, try to get lots of skin-to-skin time, and try to plan activities that involve both baby and your other siblings if that is causing you to feel any sort of way. But you are not alone. Myth number 4, epidurals slow down labor. Whew, this is a big one. It's been talked about a lot, and it's still talked about a lot in many different types of birthing communities. And it's a big one because there are actually studies that say, yes, epidurals do slow down labor. But I want to tell you why these older studies say epidurals slow down labor. So epidurals that you used to get, they were very, very heavy. And what do I mean by heavy? I mean you couldn't lift your legs up off the bed, let alone reposition yourself in bed with or without help. And also they knocked out your ability to feel pain, but also they knock out your ability to feel pressure. And when you can't feel pressure as your baby drops down in your pelvis, you have no idea when you're contracting, meaning somebody else has to tell you when you're contracting, somebody else has to tell you when and how to push, and so your pushing is not as effective. And when you combine your inability to change positions in bed, so you're laying in one position, baby's not going to engage as well, and then you can't push as well, it extends your labor by quite a bit. But there are studies that are coming out now that are debunking that and saying, no, epidurals do not slow down labor. And that is because Epidurals now are very well functioning. They give you adequate pain control, but they still allow you to move your legs and reposition with help in bed, and you're able to support your own body weight. So with an epidural, you're still able to do all fours, side lying, supported kneeling. You can do all those incredible things that change the shape of your pelvis that allows your baby to engage in your pelvis. And the other cool thing that they do is that they still allow you to feel pressure. We can't do anything about pressure, but when you feel that pressure, that's great because you then know when you're contracting, you know when your contraction is over, and you can actually coach yourself on when and how to push. And doing that, you're going to push more effectively. And so if it does extend your labor at all, we are talking about minutes. We are not talking like in the past hours. There's actually knowledge out there now that says epidurals could actually speed up your labor. And I have seen this happen firsthand. Sometimes if someone is in so much pain that their body is completely tense the entire time and their brain is firing because they are so scared of the pain that is coming their way, this can actually stall your labor. So sometimes I have seen people take an epidural, they get comfortable, they relax, they get a rest, then their body is able to dilate the rest of the way and they can push out a baby. We are more than halfway. Myth number 5 is that babies need more milk than you can produce when they're first born. So when babies are first born, they actually need colostrum, which is what your breasts are producing. Colostrum is thicker in consistency. Sometimes it's yellow, it can be other colors, but it's chock full of really great nutrients and it boosts their immune system. And it's slow flowing on purpose. That's so that baby can get used to latching without being overwhelmed by a full-on supply of breast milk. What I want you to remember is that when babies are first born, their tummies are very, very tiny. They're about the size of a cherry pit or a marble. They only hold about 8 mils. And if you filled it with 8 mils, ooh, that is like them being as full as you are after a big meal and you have to undo your pants. So the amount of breast milk that you need to satisfy a newborn baby is not that much at all. And studies are showing that actually only 5 to 10% of new parents do not supply enough breast milk to keep their baby growing and satisfied. Although you can't actually see how much milk baby's taking in, there are some great ways you can tell if baby's getting enough milk. Are they eating 8 to 12 times in a day? Do they seem satisfied and relaxed after they eat? When they're awake, are they alert? Are they gaining weight appropriately and hitting appropriate milestones? And a really, really great way to make sure that baby is getting enough milk is to take a look at their diapers. In the first 24 hours, because your baby is only getting colostrum, you can only expect to see a couple of wet pee diapers, maybe 2 of them. But after days 3 or 4, you should see 6 wet diapers a day, and these diapers should be wet with pee that is clear or pale. If they are wetting less than 6 diapers or the pee in there is very concentrated, a dark yellow or an orange with crystals, you may be thinking that baby is not getting enough to eat and you should consult with your provider. And poop-wise, the baby's first poop is that black, tarry meconium we all know and love. But after days 3 or 4, your baby's poop should become more often, about 4 times a day, and it should become green or yellowy green and seedy. Myth number 6, if you're having twins, you have to have a C-section. Well, this one actually could be a myth, but it could be true, but it's going to depend on a few factors as to whether or not you can deliver your twins vaginally or if you should deliver your twins by a C-section. Okay, if twin A is like bum down, ear down, hand down, they're laying sideways, they don't know which way is up, it's going to be a no-fly to a C-section. But if twin A is head down and twin B is bum down breech, your provider might actually clear you for a vaginal delivery if they're comfortable with a vaginal breech birth. So that's something you should ask your provider when you're choosing one if you're a twin parent. Now, if your twins share a placenta, you're likely going to be a C-section because if you deliver twin A and then deliver placenta, that is not safe for twin B. And then, of course, if you have a low-lying or a placenta previa, that's not safe for a vaginal delivery, even with a single baby, so you will be teed up for a C-section in that scenario as well. Myth 7, redheads bleed more than the rest of the population. I want to tell you this is true because we all believe it as labor and delivery nurses, but when I did a look at the research, there is actually no scientific or anecdotal evidence to say for sure that redheads bleed more than the rest of the bunch. But you 2 to 6% of the population, whoo, you make us nervous. Myth number 8, losing my mucus plug is a sure sign of labor. Straight up myth. But mucus plugs are really cool because they're an accumulation of discharge and mucus, and they act as a physical roadblock to the entrance of your cervix, keeping you and your baby safer from infection. And what's even cooler about these baddies is they can regenerate. So you could lose a chunk, it'll grow back. Lose a chunk, it'll grow back. And there is no set amount of time between losing your mucus plug and going into labor. Some people will lose it, they'll go into labor 3 weeks later. Some people will lose it and they'll come in an hour later and kick out a baby. There really is no guideline here. What we do know though is that if you're losing your mucus plug, likely what's happening is there's some subtle changes happening in your cervix. Maybe a little dilation, maybe a little effacement, maybe a little bit of softening. So if this is happening earlier than 37 weeks of your pregnancy, then we should actually probably be getting in touch with our provider to let them know. But one thing I will tell you is that when you come into labor and delivery thinking that you're in labor, you don't have to bring your mucus plug with you. We believe you. We made it to the end. Myth number 9, more women give birth on a full moon. I was sure this was true, but it is in fact a myth. The theory is that the gravitational force of the moon is strong enough to move the tides, so it's also strong enough to affect our cycles. And even though anybody you ask that works in a labor delivery department or in an emergency department will tell you stuff gets real during a full moon, there is no scientific or anecdotal evidence to support the fact that more people give birth during a full moon. Boom, 9 more myths debunked. I hope that you loved this video. If you did, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you've enjoyed what you've been learning, and I will see you in the next video.